Hello and welcome to RV Advisors All Things RV podcast. I am your host, Kathy Conrad. I've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for over 5 years, and I love helping new RVers realize their RV dreams. This podcast is about RV education, resources, adventures, and the amazing people who love RVing. It is also about discovering the freedom RVers experience, the connection with nature that we are all so grateful for, and how RVing enriches our lives. On this podcast, you can expect us to talk about all things RV, including the good stuff, the challenging stuff, and everything in between. So join us weekly and enjoy the lineup of guests we have in store for you. If you have been dreaming of RV camping and travel, this is a great time of year to start researching, learning, and exploring your options for an RV. I would love to help you get started on the right foot. Visit my website and schedule an RV readiness call. Let's get you started with a solid plan of action to make your way towards your RV adventures. Hey friends, and welcome back to the podcast. And if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us today. So today in this episode, I'd like to cover a few more things that people wish they had known before they purchased an RV. Last week, we covered 3 areas. The 3 things that I'd like to cover today that we didn't cover last week is the learning curve is one of the things that people mentioned. I wish I had known what about this huge learning curve around RVing, which really encompasses all these other things, by the way. And the other thing is choosing the right type of RV. That's something else people have talked about. And lastly, inspections, which I'm throwing in there because that's a big thing I think is really, really important. And then people a lot of times don't realize the amount of maintenance and repairs that go along with RVing. So let's dive in. You know, sometimes people don't really do a lot of research, if any at all, before they buy an RV, and they don't realize the extent of the learning curve until they're knee deep into trying to figure out how to do all the things. And if you're really new, chances are you may not even know what questions to ask. I mean, that's normal for anything. If you don't know anything about it, you may not even know what type of questions to ask and have no idea of the extent of the knowledge that you need when purchasing, maintaining, or operating an RV. It starts with discovering first what type of RV will best fit your travel and camping style. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And, you know, whether you want a drivable or towable, do you already have a tow vehicle? Do you need to get a tow vehicle? I mean, there's lots of things that you need to ask yourself and think about discovering what's best for you. And then navigating the buying process. Should you buy new? Should you buy used? Should you buy from a dealership or an individual? You know, and learning to do all the things. And what you do, how you do it, and the order in which you do things really matters during the setup and takedown process. Eventually it gets to be routine, but using lists in the beginning is really helpful, and just checking and double checking. It's easy to make a costly mistake. So a quick walkthrough at a dealership when you're buying is barely enough to get you out the door and home. Starting out can be really overwhelming. Research and education, I feel, is paramount. I want people to have the best experience possible, and I think it's important, you know, what to expect, how to handle things. There's a lot of details to learn around RVing. Really all the things that people say, oh, I wish I had known this or wish I had known that before I bought an RV, all that really falls under the big umbrella of the learning curve. So in addition, choosing the right type of RV falls under that same umbrella of the learning curve. And you know, I've talked to several people who bought an RV only to learn that after taking it out a few times that it was not the best choice for them. And I've known a couple who actually end up trading that RV in to get another one. And what happens is they end up taking a financial hit because when you drive them off the lot, they depreciate. And so these people that I know, they took their, you know, tow behind in to trade it in for a fifth wheel. And so they paid $32,000 for the tow behind. They would only give them 25 on the trade-in, and it was only, a matter of a few weeks in between. So it's better to buy the right one the first time. So taking the time to do the research and ask lots of questions and educate yourself is so worth it. It really is. Really take your time during this process so that you're aware of what all the choices are. And there's so many choices. And there are a lot of things will be easy for you to eliminate, but you really need to get down into the weeds of, besides the type, the brand, the price point, the quality, the floor plan, the size, all those things really matter. And it's important to take the time to really, really think those things through so that you make the best decision possible for the type of travel that you're wanting to do and deciding what's best, what fits best. And, even renting is a way to kind of get an idea of what it's like to take an RV out and go camping. So some people like to rent, and there's different options in different places, where you can rent an RV. So that's something to consider. So there's some expense involved in doing that, but it might help you to save some money in the long run and help you to determine what's going to be the best type of RV for you. So a past podcast I'll refer you to is my podcast number 11, and that's 9 types of RVs that you can choose from. So the other thing that I want to cover is inspections, maintenance, and repairs. A lot of times people don't realize that you don't just buy an RV, use the heck out of it, and never do anything to it. There's maintenance that you need to do. It's really important to extend the life of the RV. And as far as inspections, it's a good idea, whether you're buying new or used from a dealer or from an individual, you wouldn't buy a home without having it inspected. So I think to treat buying an RV the same way is a good idea. And the only instance I can think that I would say, you could probably let the inspection slide is if you are planning on buying from a, dealership that has a stellar reputation. And those are hard to come by. There's not a lot of them out there. And when you go to a high volume RV dealership, their focus is on selling you something, and they don't always go through the units in a thorough way to make sure everything is operating properly. They'll say they do, but they don't always. So that's where the inspection comes in. There are dealerships out there that have a great reputation, and it seems to be the small town, family-owned RV dealerships who are not selling high volume. So they really have to earn people's business. They really have to be excellent with their customer service. They really have to be attentive to what your needs are and to help you find what's right for you, and to be sure that the unit, once it arrived from the manufacturer to their dealership, that they went through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything was working properly. So there are some that you could probably rely on, but it's not the majority. So I've just always been a big proponent of getting an RV inspection. And we bought a gently used outdoors RV. A lot of people have probably heard this before, and it's a good, we did a lot of research, right? So we know that's a quality build. And we found one that we really liked that was just gently used, that an individual was selling. And even though I knew it was probably fine, and we looked at it and everything looked good, it was the first RV that we bought. We still have it, by the way. So we had it inspected by a professional inspector. And as it turned out, it was indeed in great working order. Everything was working just fine. There was nothing, no big problems or anything. But I'll tell you, that peace of mind of knowing, okay, it's good. There's no damage anywhere, or there's not, something that's not working properly. So that peace of mind was everything. So he spent like 8 hours on a Friday, went through the entire rig, top to bottom, front to back, making sure all the systems were operating correctly, that the holding tanks, he filled them all to make sure they weren't leaking, just all kinds of stuff. And, by Saturday mid-morning, he emailed us a 102-page report with photos and comments and information. I mean, it was really, really, he did an excellent job. and everything was fine, which we figured it would be, but it's just that peace of mind because you really don't want to buy somebody else's problem. And so once you've kind of looked at the pictures online or whatever, seen it in person, you're not seeing any glaring problems, and it's one you really are interested in buying, then I would say, have it inspected. And you want to go through the NRVIA, through their website, to find a certified professional inspector in your area. And then I'd give them a call. You might have a couple to choose from, 2 or 3, or there may only be one. And you want to find out what their radius is that they'll visit to do an inspection, find out how much they charge, maybe ask how many they've done, what's the process, and all that sort of thing. And when you find somebody that you feel good about and you've researched them online, if they have a web page, maybe read any testimonials or reviews, then you're prepared to have them come out when you find the rig that you want to have inspected. So very much worth it. Now, as far as, RV regular maintenance, there are a lot of things that we do to keep our rigs in good shape. And the big number one enemy for RVs is water penetration. So super important, to get up on the roof a couple of times a year and check the seals, make sure they're all still very good. And generally on the roof, you use the die-core self-leveling. Don't use silicone on your roof. And just make sure the roof is clean and really look closely for any, openings or anywhere where it looks like the seals are starting to fail a little bit or there's a little opening. And there's maintenance that you may feel comfortable doing yourself once you know what those things are. And some things you may want to have a technician do, and like repacking the bearings of the wheels and you're always looking at this stuff as you're traveling. When you stop, anytime we stop, we take a walk around, make sure everything's looking okay, because things can change when you're traveling down the road. But so the better you maintain it, and I would keep a log of everything, the dates that you do it and everything that you do, so you can refer back to it, because there's a lot of stuff you do, maybe once a year or every 6 months. Any work that you have done by a technician, put it in your log. And, like the stabilizer jacks, if you have manual ones like we do, you got to grease those every so often so that they run smoothly. And the stairs that fold up and down, those can be kind of stiff and squeaky. The better you take care of your rig and can prevent bigger things from happening by taking care of it. And then also for resale, if you have a maintenance log you can present to somebody so they see you've taken care of it, because I like buying used, gently used and well loved, because of that depreciation thing when you drive it off the lot. And sometimes there's this breaking in period where it takes a while to get things to not be falling apart. You might have to add some better screws to the cabinets and things like that. Some brands, especially if you're an ultralight or something like that, because the quality really starts with the materials and the workmanship. So I think a lot of times people think because they're buying a brand new rig, there's not going to be any problems. And that's generally not the case. There's always things that fall off that you have to fix, moldings and things like that. And it's very common. So it's important, I think, that people know that. And I talked a little bit about expectations in the last podcast. So anyway, the other 2 podcasts I would recommend that you listen to is 5 and 6, and that's RV Inspections, Regular Maintenance, and Life Safety with Patrick Stiltner of the RV Academy. Make sure you have a notebook and a pen, it's one interview that I split into 2 podcasts, and they're still pretty long, but he gives so much excellent information. I mean, really take the time to listen to them and take notes, because he is just a wealth of information. So you should find that really helpful. So anyway, I hope that you found this helpful, and I really feel from my experience that we felt so much better knowing that we researched the brand, we had a good purchasing experience, we're glad we had an inspection done, was that peace of mind that we weren't buying someone else's problem. And, learning how to do all the things like the setting up and taking down, and it really helps when you go out and you feel comfortable that you know what to do, how to do it, the sequence to do things in and what have you. It makes for more fun, and you're always checking and rechecking yourself, because it can be easy to get distracted and forget something, and then you might end up with a costly mistake, and I really want to help people avoid doing that. Things still may happen, but I think that there are lots of things that you can learn about, things not to do that you may not know, that will save you some money in the long run. So thanks for listening today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in today to RV Advisors All Things RV podcast. Please join us again next week for more RV education, resources, adventures, and interesting people. Until then, wishing you amazing adventures, safe travels, and I hope to see you on the road.